for the last speaker, we have Professor Fakira Mohan Nahak. Professor, are you ready?
Uh, Very good morning. Am I audible?
Okay.
Am I audible?
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for Mr. Aditya for giving me this opportunity for inviting to this international workshop series from India and from my university, Chandigarh University Institute of Media Studies. I extend greetings to all the participants and all the members there, all respected teachers and professors, those who are the speakers for today, and those who are the participants for today, and all the students from different countries. Once again, namaskar from India. And on behalf of my institute, University Institute of Media Studies and Chandigarh University, I once again welcome you all, and I extend my hearty greetings to all of you. Uh, Today, we are discussing about Society 5.0, and Society 5.0, when we talk about society, means where we have a mutual coexistence, mutual respect, and sustainable development with the support of modern advanced technology and science. So, as a broadcaster for a quite long time and as a teacher in media studies, today I have the topic that uh, for deliberation is managing news in television, both editorial and technical process. Uh, can I share my screen?
Yes, Professor, please.
Is it visible?
Okay, I see clearly.
Is it visible now?
Yes, I see your screen clearly, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So today we are discussing about managing news in television, the editorial and technical process. Uh, the first thing that starts when we talk about news and television, right? The nowadays we are having more of 24 into 7 news channels, and basically there is a throat cut competition not only in India. We are having more than 950 television channels in India. Similarly, in all other countries, there are maximum number of television channels, right? And everybody is competing to present new content to attract the viewers. The first point is, while you are running a 24 into 7 news channel, right there, how you are going to manage it. When we talk about management, it immediately comes that you are managing or you are budgeting your news. Budgeting doesn't mean that how much money we are going to spend or how much we are going to earn in the form of revenues. But the point is how exactly we are going to make our 24 hours channels with our complete news items. That means what are all those stories that we are going to put on air and how we are going to get it. That means generation of the stories, preparation of the stories, and presentation of the stories, and managing the time throughout the day for 24 hours, right? So if we are making plan or we are budgeting our news, that means we are budgeting the number of stories, the type of stories, and the sources of the stories from where we are generating it, how we are generating it, and how we are going to fill the chunks. So take the example of any newspaper. If your newspaper is say of 24 pages or say 32 pages, that means how much space you are going to spend for your advertisements. Besides that, how many news items you require to fill all those pages. That is required in the that is the part of the news budgeting. That is the part of news management. The moment you decide your content, then that becomes easy for you for its generation and for its preparation, right? If you're going for a radio news bulletin, if you're making a radio news bulletin, means suppose your duration of the bulletin is 10 minutes, you can take maximum 20 stories, not more than that. And all those 20 stories cannot be of 1 minute duration. That means every story has a limited space, limited time, which you have to manage while you are presenting it, right? So be it newspaper, radio, or television, whatever the media you are choosing, right? In that case, you have to plan your stories, you have to plan your budget, so that budget in the sense the number of stories, budget in the sense how exactly you are managing your time. So for that, we need the process, or we need the budgeting of the news. So budgeting of the news, when it comes to television, basically for the active 18 hours, we put the fresh content in television. And during the night times, normally we expect that after 12 o'clock till morning 6 o'clock, right? In the night 6 hours, mostly people sleep during that time. So we may not require the fresh content at that time. So we can go for the repeat slots that are on air during the daytime. So that can be put into the nighttime for the repeat broadcasting. But at the same time, when we talk about 18 hours of live broadcasting, in that case, are we going for complete live, or we are having some capsule program, or the recorded programs, or the say deferred programs? Once we have recorded it in our studio, the final output is ready after post production and everything, and the content is put for on air. So there are live slots, and there are say you can say the recorded slots. So 18 hours of program when you are presenting, right? eh, there most of the slots are divided into 30 minutes of slots, and there we prepare the programs as per our FPC, the fixed point chart. Every channel is having its own set of direction. That means the FPC never changes. If you are watching a program, say every day, the breaking news, or say the good breakfast news comes at 7 o'clock in the morning. So every day at 7 o'clock, you will find that particular bulletin. The nature of that bulletin is decided. The nature of that news program is decided. So in the fixed point chart, that means it is a routine that is already there, and for which you are making the content. So as per the FPC, you have to plan your news management, and that news management is done basically through editorial process and the technical process. So how the editorial process starts, where that editorial process starts, that matters. Every day in the news channel, we start with the first news budgeting meeting. That means preparatory meeting. That is an editorial meeting where all the stakeholders, prominent stakeholders like the editor, the output editors, the input editors, the assignment editors, bureau heads, and all reporters, they sit together and they join together. Now it has become easy for conducting, like as I'm sitting in India, and I'm addressing people from other parts of the world, and I'm listening to all of you. So in the virtual mode also, we can go for this kind of editorial meeting, but at the same time, there are physical meetings every day in the editorial department, where the stories are planned and all reporters are asked to come with their story plan. Story plan means the story idea, what exactly as a reporter you are going to do today, or the story that you are going to generate today. So in that case, when the reporter presents his idea, all other people, those who are at the editorial level, right, they are having more experience and they are having a more expertise into the field. So they add value to that story, they add perspective to that story, and they prepare the story. They approve the story that yes, this is the story that whatever you have proposed as a reporter, we are approving it, and you have to generate that story in the from the field. So this is how we prepare, or we start our management of the stories early in the morning. right? So when we say the editorial process, from where we get the stories, the reporters, they come with planned stories, right? And there are event invitations. Suppose the prime minister is visiting your city, or there are international delegates, those who are coming to to your university, and you are covering it. So this is how the event are planned. All those events you are getting as a news channel, or as a media house, you get the invitation for coverage of all those events, right? We invite press people. So that is one source from where we get the story. And the reporter comes with the planned stories. At the same time, suppose there is an accident, there is a tsunami, there is an earthquake, there is a natural disaster which was not predicted, which happened instantly, right? In that case, all your plans go somewhere, and you have to work as per the demand of the situation, as per the requirement of the situation, based on the gravity of the incident. So this is how we generate the stories in the editorial level, right? When we go for the event invitation, is it a scheduled event, just like the press briefs by politicians, press briefs by the leaders, press briefs by the ministers, or press brief by any official? Is it a political rally? A rally? Is it a meeting? Or is it a workshop? Is it a seminar? It is an international symposium? What kind of event it is? Based on the event, the editorial team has to decide which event to cover, which event to give more emphasis, which event has more impact on people, which event has more requirement for the society. Keeping in mind, we have to plan the coverage of the event. So when we talk about the planned stories, right? Suppose constantly at a particular sea beach, I'm giving you an example. Suppose a sea beach is there either in Indonesia or in Malaysia or in India. There is continuous sea erosion, right? People, the coastal people, those who are living on the coast, they are getting affected. In that case, right? This is not an event. This is not an incident. It is a gradual process. It is a continuous process. Every time it is happening. And as a reporter, if you are planning the story, right, what kind of input you require, how you are going to cover it, how people are suffering, who are all those in the administration, those who can take corrective measures, what the government policy is there to address this kind of natural problems, right? If from all those perspectives the reporter thinks, he can plan the story, the reporter can plan the story. So whether that the planned story, whether it is policy based, whether it is investigative, whether it is a special story, as I was giving you the example, this is a special story, right? If there is any kickback, there is any misappropriation, in that case, if the reporter goes for an investigation, this is not an event. In that case, it is also a planned story. If the government declares some policies for some welfare measures, how it is going to affect the society, how it is going to support the society, from all perspectives, government has formulated a policy, government has implemented a policy, but exactly how it is helping people, how it is helping the society, that can be investigated, that can be analyzed, that can be evaluated by media, that can be evaluated by the journalist, the reporter, right? Going to the grassroots level, directly meeting with people and planning the story based on the government policies. Similarly, when we talk about the incidents of the breaking news, right? Whether what kind of incident it is, whether it is a major accident, is a natural disaster, is a political turmoil, all of a sudden something happened at the national headquarters, there is the political class, anything which happens instantly. In that case, if that becomes a breaking news, and it has more impact on the society, in that case, we have to plan all our stories instantly and we have to cover it as the media. So this is how we plan the editorial content. Once the stories are planned, right, and the ideas, because the process starts from ideation to the level of implementation. From ideation to implementation, it is a long journey, and it goes through different phases. So from ideation, when our idea is fixed, when our planning is fixed, when our story is approved, in that case, what we do, we have to decide the format, what kind of story it will be, whether it will be a half an hour show, whether it will be a 30-second story, or a 1 minute story, or 2 minute story, or 5 minute story. What kind of story it will be, that will be decided in the editorial team, by the editorial team in the editorial meeting, whether it is an on-camera voiceover, whether it is an anchor voiceover graphics, whether it is an anchor voiceover with a sound bite, whether it is a voice out, right? Whether it is a completely capsuled package, or it is a public reaction in the form of vox populi or vox pop, whether it is a simsat if we are not going for a live broadcasting, whether it is an interview, whether it is a snippet, what kind of story it will be, we have to decide in the editorial meeting, right? At the same time, because early in the morning we are planning for the entire day's editorial process and entire day's story, what we have to do, we have to know exactly if the reporter is going to the field, at what time he will come back, at what time we are going to the story. That means expected time of arrival should be there, so that the editorial team can plan its execution and the processing and broadcasting of the story. And what kind of additional information is there? I was giving you the example of sea erosion. So if you are making a story of sea erosion, right, in that case you have certain visuals, but suppose there are some statistical data, there are some information that you want to put in numbers. In that case, you have to plan some graphics, some graphical storytelling in that story, in that particular news item, right? You have to give some graphs, you have to give some illustrations, you have to give some statistics. So that needs to be planned well in advance, so that the story can be properly designed and presented, and it can attract the eyeballs of the viewers, and it can also put a positive impact, right? And the ball and in the bulletin or the rundown or the run order wise stories are planned, which story I'm going to put in which bulletin. There are various types of bulletins. There are regional stories, there are national stories, there are sports stories, there are stories, human interest stories, there are cinema film stories, right, entertainment stories. So a science-based program we have investigative stories. All these stories need to be balanced and put in different time slots. If it is a local bulletin, right? If anything happens at the international level, that need not to be presented in the in the local bulletin. So for that, we have to present the local stories for our local viewers, and we have to present the international stories for our international viewers. That is most important. And what are next? Once your editorial process is done, then what you are doing? You are doing the technical requirements. So based on the profile of the channel and the available resources, suppose you have a small channel and you have only 5 reporters. Can you plan 35 stories? Can a reporter file 7 stories a day? That is impossible. That is next. So in that case, based on your resources, you have to plan your stories. And what kind of channel it is? Is it a regional channel for a local area? Is it an international channel? Is it a national channel? Is it a sports channel? Is it a lifestyle channel? What kind of channel it is? Based on the profile of the channel, we have to plan the stories. And designing of the content flow. At what time, what kind of programs are planned in the fixed point chart? Based on that, we have to plan our stories. What kind of competitions we have nowadays? There are hardly one or two public broadcasters are there, but we are having more number of private players, private broadcasters. So there is a throat court competition. You have to, while you are planning your story, you have to keep in mind what kind of competition you have, and what are different formats in which you are going to cater your audience. Who is your target audience? Are you planning this for the campus students? Are you planning to planning your content for the youth? Are you planning for the content for women, for old people? Who is your target audience? Based on the target audience, our stories are prepared or the planned. Nature of broadcast, whether it is live or it is recorded. If it is live, then our technical requirement increases. If it is recorded, then the technical requirements are something different, right? In this way, we have to plan while we are managing, we are talking about the news management, right? So this is the process from idea through idea, after ideation, it goes through the process, and finally it reaches to the presentation stage, where you involve the field, the editorial desk, and the PCR, the production control room, right? They all together work in coordination and cooperation, right? If the reporter is there and the cameraman is there, the video journalist is there, but there is no coordination and cooperation between them. The reporter is thinking the story from a different perspective, and you want to portray your story in a different perspective, and the cameraman is or the video journalist is unaware of it. In that case, what you will do? If there is no coordination, the output will be a big zero. The output is going to affect the, the ultimate output is not up to your expectation level. In that case, we need first coordination and cooperation at the field level. Then the editorial desk also works in coordination with the field, because from the field the story is generated, it goes through the editorial desk, and the editorial desk processes the story and it gives to the PCR for final presentation. The production control room controls the studio and monitors the and facilitates the presentation of the story on screen. So this is how we work. These are the 5 C's that are required while we are planning or managing our news: the coordination, cooperation, competency, creativity, and commitment. All these 5 C's are required. If we are well coordinated, but we are not cooperating to each other, we are not supporting to each other, we are not complementing and supplementing to each other in the team, it is not possible. At the same time, what kind of competency level I have? If I am in the editorial desk, whether I'm pretty good in writing my story, pretty good in presenting my story, whether I'm technically sound, what kind of expertise I have, what kind of competency I have, that depends, and that needs to be catered, that needs to be considered while assigning the story, while planning the story. A right person at the right place with the right kind of assignment can do better than others. So competency is required. Creativity, we know the television means it is a techno-creative field. We have to have the technical knowledge. At the same time, we have to be creative, because every time we have to present something new for our viewers. So creativity is important, and commitment. I have to meet the deadline. I have to complete my task on time. Then only I can present my program before my audience. So the commitment is also required, right? Uh, at the same time, while we are designing the rundown, while we are planning the stories in a rundown, in a show, we must keep in mind that all stories are not of the same level. There are some weak stories, there are some very good and attractive stories. So in that case, we can plan for a peak and valley formula. What is that peak and valley formula? The best story will be at the number one. Next, the less important story, number two. less important story number 3, then a good story at number 4, right? So there is a peak and valley, a best story and weak story, a best story, weak story. In that way, we can arrange all those stories in a peak and valley pattern, so that we can hold the attention of the audience or the viewers for a quite long time. And developing the story, staying with the story, and deciding the format of the story. All these are the part of the process, and it ultimately contributes for the presentation. So when we say this society 5.0, how this process is continuously there, but how it is now applicable in this context, the traditional way of data transfer is gone. Professor Ika was telling in her presentation, the videotapes, the audio cassettes, right, and VHS cassettes. I belong to that generation. That when I started working in television, I was working in all those analog mode of transmission, using all those videotapes, cassettes, right, and gradually we shifted to digitalization, and from those linear editing, from tape editing, we shifted to non-linear editing. So this is how the technology helped us in transforming our production, our presentation, everything, right? So the traditional, earlier we were sending the cassettes after recording it, or we were sending through broadbands, we were sending through VSAT centers, right? We are using the DSNG van, digital satellite news gathering vans or OB vans, for sending our signals to the broadcast center. But now what we are doing, we are even we are going for live with the help of Skype, with the help of WhatsApp. You can make video calls, and that video call can be merged on your television screen. You can capture anyone from anywhere on a live mode. So this is how you are entering into this society 5.0 approach, right? The traditional way of data transfer has gone. It is no more there. Social media, digital media has become the source of news. Now all of the reporters, majority of the reporters, they are keeping an eye what is happening on social media, on Twitter handles of political leaders, global leaders, prime ministers, right? Officials, what they are posting, that becomes news immediately. And the social media has become a source of news for the reporters, for the news channels. And user generated content. People, those who are on social media, right? If something becomes viral, if anything, any video becomes viral, that immediately gets a space on television screen. How it is happening? Because we have taken it as a source. At the same time, we are now more focused on society, because all these activities are going on social media. At the same time, all these activities are recorded from the society as a part of the input from the society. I can say that yes, it is generated by society, and now we are giving it back to the society in through our broadcasting system, right? So simultaneously, it is involved in content generation and presentation, creating content to deliver on smartphones. Have you go back to say 7 years, 10 years back? Have you ever imagined that you will watch one day the television channels on your mobile phone? But now what is happening? Even the television channels, they have adopted the mechanism of delivering their content on mobile phones, so that there is no requirement of a television set and you have to sit before the set to watch the program. Even you are traveling, you can watch a television news bulletin on your mobile phone. So this is how we are shifting, right? Creating content to deliver on social on smartphones, using tools like Skype, WhatsApp for live broadcasting, right? So this is how exactly just a minute. Yes, after those 5 C's, that coordination, cooperation, competency, creativity, and commitment, now in Society 5.0, we are more focused on connectivity, inclusiveness. More and more people we are involving, because we are talking about the sustainable society. We are talking about interdependence. We are talking about interdependence of media, interdependence of technology and media. We are talking about interdependence of technology and society. So in that case, the increased interdependence of media is, television is a different medium and social media is a different medium, but there is increasing interdependence. So you need more connectivity. So the additional C is added here. And after that editorial process, the technical process starts. And what is that technical process? The technical process is nothing but the what kind of, once our stories are planned, right? What kind of technical steps we are going to take? Is it a large scale production? Is it a routine production? Is it a live broadcasting? It is an indoor broadcasting, studio based production. What kind of program it is? What kind of content it is? Based on that, we have to manage our content. We have to for the technical process, right? After stories are finalized in the editorial meeting, technical process starts. The editorial process also starts. The technical process, right? There, the nature of the story and coverage plan, technical process of budgeting is done. It is a routine story. A simple team of reporter and cameraman will handle it. If it is a complex production, then the scale and nature is very large. Then there will be plan for multi-camera productions. We may need one single camera may not be able to produce the program. In that case, we have to plan well in advance for this multi-camera production. So if it is a live broadcast, then we need a live view or DSNG van or some production for the production and transmission process, right? For outdoor broadcasting vans are required for that. Either you will go with the backpacks, that live view kits, from where you can share your content directly, or the audiovisual signals directly to the satellite and to your production control room, so that the news station can carry it without any problem, without any hindrances. So
I'm sorry,
this is
Professor.
how we plan for the presentation in the technical process, right? And the technical process, we all know, I have already discussed that if there is no coordination between the reporter and the camera person, right, then it becomes difficult to generate the right kind of content from the ground. That is basic requirement for the generation of the story. So the reporter briefs the story to the camera person, and the live team, the broadcasting team, and moves to the ground and makes a connection with the production control room over the phone for a continuous establishment of live connection, so that they can broadcast it live from the ground, right? And the audiovisual signal thrown from the ground to the satellite, and from the satellite to the feed room, or to the newsroom, or to the production control room, that needs to be verified whether it is it is of broadcast worthy, broadcast quality, its audiovisual strength. Everything needs to be verified before going for a live broadcasting. See, in a flood, how it is covered by a reporter, right? Most of the people are underwater there, right? In a natural disaster kind of thing. The feeds and visuals are received by the feed room. That is, once received by there, it goes to the editorial desk. They check for the content quality. They check for the audiovisual quality. If it is as per the requirement of the story, and as per the requirement of the script, if it is corroborating each other, then it will immediately checked by the editorial team, and the editorial team makes the final transmission copy. Then in the editorial desk, it is processed and the voiceover is done, the final editing is done. If the graphics are required, then graphics is added, and if the voiceover is required, voiceover is added, and the final story is edited. After editing in the post-production desk, after completion, after using of the special effects, the background music and everything, and the visual editor takes care of the aesthetics of the story, how beautifully it is produced, how beautifully it is edited for the presentation. That is also most important. And after final editing, this story is previewed by the editorial team. There may be any information error, there may be any visual error, there may be any spelling error in the content if the graphics are used, anything, any kind. There should be zero tolerance for your the content that you have created or the generated. Now,
Excuse me, Professor Nahak.
uh,
I'm
uh,
sorry, you have 2 minutes left. Thank you.
I will wind up now. Don't worry. Right? Once the story is done, then it is given to the production control room, and finally it goes for broadcasting. So my point is here that once we are adopting the mechanism of planning and executing the stories for management, for managing the news, we have to follow these parameters. We have to focus on how exactly we are going to add value, and at the same time, how we are going to address our society through our planning, through our production, through our content. That is most important. Thank you very much. Uh,
Okay, thank you,
uh,
Professor Nahak, for your great presentation. So I see that your point is how to use uh, journalistic and media as useful as we can. So let the audience give their perspective. Maybe they have question or opinion about your topics.
yeah,
And
welcome.
okay, so dear audience, do you have any questions for Professor Nahak? Anyone? Maybe Miss Huda again, Miss Nur Huda. Okay, please, Miss Huda, if you have any question.
Hello, Prof. Nice to meet you, Prof. Even if we meet just in a Zoom like that.
Thank you, Ms. Huda.
Prof, I just want to discuss about based on previous topic about technology 5.0 that everyone can become a journalist with their cell phone. So even though they don't have skill to manage news properly, so, but they a lot of them just spread the news quickly before check it or before verify that the news is true or not. We usually call it like a hoax news in Indonesia.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, is it true that we, as a lecturer, have to spread technology, but we also must bring the wisdom or we teach technology without wisdom is like you just bring the distraction like that, maybe in my opinion. So therefore, as a lecturer, especially in IT, we must add a soft skill to our student, like AQ, emotional question, and SQ or spiritual question beside of IQ, so that student will grow into wise software engineer maybe, or into a researcher that have a good attitude or a wise attitude for them, like that maybe, Prof, or how do overcome it, so we don't quit student with don't have a wise attitude, maybe because technology or also can become harmful, yeah, Prof. If we
Uh,
don't have soft skill
uh,
or we don't have wisdom. How do you think about?
I think the same question was raised during Professor Ika's presentation, right? How wisely we are using the technology, right? Whether we are using the technology for the welfare of the society, for the welfare of the mankind, or we are using it as a ban, or we are using it as a curse, right?
Yeah.
So the best answer for this question is we need to empower our people, our mass, not only our students. We have to empower our mass with the knowledge of media literacy. We must have the ability to understand the content that we are consuming, the content that are presented to us, either through social media or through mainstream media. We must have a critical thinking to this. We must have self-analyzation to it, right? Whether they are presenting the fact or they are presenting us any fabricated information. If we have the knowledge of media literacy, if we have the basic skills to identify the facts and the fiction, right? In that case, I don't think any kind of attempt by any individual of misutilizing technology for presenting fabricated fact that will hamper the society. If we are aware enough to segregate the information and misinformation, right? So that is the basic requirement. That is the reason why when somebody takes admission into media and mass communication, they are taught a basic fundamental subject, that is media literacy. Media literacy is required. Now we, even in my country, the government is trying to introduce media literacy at the high school level to the students, to school going students. So because the students are now exposed to the social media, they're exposed to the digital media, they are now exposed to WhatsApp universities. We call it WhatsApp university. Now everybody is creating content and putting it on WhatsApp and quotes somebody else, and they say that this is the solution for this particular problem. You must have observed it during the COVID era, right? Everybody became a doctor. Everybody started giving solutions to the problem, to this global pandemic. But it depends on how exactly we are consuming it. While we are consuming it, are we really critically thinking? Are we really trying to understand the fact and the fiction, the fabricated information? So that is most important. So if we can introduce media literacy from the grassroots level to literate our people, to make them understand what exactly the media content is and how you can differentiate between the information and misinformation. If we can teach the people from grassroots level, the school going children, to the to student, not only the students from mass communication, every student who takes admission in the university for a undergraduate course, for a postgraduate course, there should be university level courses on media literacy. They must run, because everybody is now exposed to media content. So that is most important, how we are literating them, how we are making them understand the media content. I think I have addressed your question. Any further questions?
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Huda. Unfortunately, the time for this session is up, so I'm really sorry to have to end this session. Thank you for the great presentation. Once again, thank you, Professor Nahak. I'm really excited about the material and how you explain it. I would like to say thank you once again to all speakers. I hope that we can
Thank
have a
you.
good knowledge and new perspective about learning media in society era 5.0. Thank you, Professor Nahak. Thank you, Dr. Ika, and thank you, Dr. Amin. So back to Dati.
Thank you. Thank you all. It was a nice experience.
Okay, thank you for Mr. Adin and our speaker, Mr. Muflis Amin, Professor Ika, and also Professor Fakir Mohan Nahak for electing us with precious knowledge. I want to remind all participants to fill the exit ticket at the column chat to get an A certificate. And also, if you want to learn more about the material today, we will share a link to the column chat too. Okay, thank you for all of the speakers and all of the participants today. This is the end of the events today. Thank you for joining and see you later. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Prof. Fakir. Prof. Ika,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a nice experience connecting with you all and providing us a treasure-worthy memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nahak.
Thank you very much. Namaskar.